Natural disasters have existed as long as humanity itself, and in fact, a lot longer. It is something no one wants to experience. And here, we're going to explain to you every single deadliest one, starting with tsunami. This is one of the most terrifying things the ocean can do, mostly because it does not always look dangerous at first. Sometimes the water pulls back from the shore before it hits, exposing parts of the seabed that should never be visible. To some people, that might even seem strange or interesting. In reality, it is one of the worst warning signs possible. When it arrives, it does not behave like an ordinary wave. It pushes inland with a huge amount of force, carrying water, debris, vehicles, and pieces of buildings with it. Entire streets can disappear under it in minutes. And because tsunamis are usually triggered by undersea earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or landslides, the destruction often begins long before people on the coast even realize what is coming. That became horrifyingly clear in 2004, when a massive 9.1 earthquake off the coast of Sumatra triggered a tsunami across the Indian Ocean, killing more than 200,000 people across Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and India. Then in 2011, Japan was hit again by tsunami waves rising over 40 feet, causing enormous destruction and triggering the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Flood, the most common killer. Now, this is one of the creepiest and most common natural disasters because it does not just wipe out buildings or roads. It takes over entire places and leaves people trapped inside a nightmare they can actually see coming. A flood is what happens when water stops being something helpful and turns into something merciless. It spills over rivers, crashes through streets, swallows homes, and keeps rising until there is nowhere left to run. What makes floods so terrifying is how helpless they make people feel. You can stand there and literally watch the water move closer, knowing there is almost nothing you can do to stop it. And once it gets inside, it does not just ruin furniture or walls, it destroys roads, crops, electricity, clean drinking water, and sometimes entire communities. In the worst cases, people are not only killed by the flood itself, but by disease, hunger, and everything that follows after. History has already shown just how catastrophic floods can become. In 1931, China suffered the deadliest flood disaster ever seen, when overflowing rivers and months of flooding killed an estimated 2 million people. More recently, in 2022, catastrophic monsoon flooding in Pakistan left a third of the country underwater, displaced millions, and destroyed roads, farms, bridges, and homes on a massive scale. On July 4th, 2025, deadly flooding in the Texas Hill Country caused the Guadalupe River to rise with terrifying speed, killing at least 135 people, including 117 in Kerr County alone. And in 2026, severe flooding and landslides across Afghanistan and Pakistan killed at least 45 people in just 5 days. That is what makes floods so dangerous. They are common and relentless. Earthquake. An earthquake is one of the few disasters that can make people feel completely helpless in a matter of seconds. Most of the time, life feels normal right up until it happens. Then suddenly the floor starts moving, walls begin to shake, glass rattles, and for a few terrifying moments, nothing around you feels safe anymore. That is what makes earthquakes so frightening. They do not arrive in a way people can really prepare for. The shaking can last only a few seconds, but that is often enough to bring down buildings, split roads, damage bridges, and trap people under collapsed concrete. And even after the main quake is over, the fear does not end there. Aftershocks can keep hitting for hours or even days, leaving people too scared to go back inside. The world has seen how destructive these disasters can become. In 2011, Japan was hit by a huge 9.0 earthquake, one of the strongest ever recorded. And in 1960, Chile experienced an even larger one that sent damage far beyond its own coastline. And that is what makes it so dangerous. Wildfire. There is something especially terrifying about fire when it is no longer sitting in a fireplace or trapped inside a stove. Out in the open, it becomes something else entirely. A wildfire does not behave like a normal fire. It does not stay in one place, and it definitely does not care what is in front of it. Once dry grass, dead trees, and strong wind come together, the whole landscape can turn into fuel almost overnight. That is what makes wildfires so frightening. They can begin with something ridiculously small, a lightning strike, a spark from machinery, a cigarette tossed out of a car window, and then suddenly, an entire hillside is glowing orange. From there, it spreads with a speed that feels deeply unfair. Roads get cut off, homes vanish. People leave with whatever they can carry and spend the night wondering if anything will still be standing by morning. The damage can be almost impossible to picture. During the 2019 and 2020 Australian bushfires, more than 46 million acres were burned, entire towns were evacuated, and smoke covered huge parts of the country. In 2018, the Camp Fire tore through Paradise, California, destroying most of the town in just a matter of hours. And even if the flames never reach you, the smoke can. It not only burns what it touches, it leaves behind a place that no longer feels like home. Tornado. Well, a tornado is hard to explain until you actually see one. There is something very unnatural about watching the sky twist itself into a narrow, spinning column and drop toward the ground like it has chosen a target. It is not just the wind at that point, it is destruction with direction. What makes tornadoes so terrifying is how little time they give you. Floods build, fires spread, but a tornado can go from bad weather to absolute catastrophe in minutes. One moment, the air feels strange and heavy, and the next, the sirens are going off, and people are running for cover. And when it touches down, it does not just damage things, it tears them apart in the most violent way possible. The strongest tornadoes can push winds past 200 miles per hour, which is enough to rip roofs off homes, throw cars through the air, and turn ordinary objects into deadly debris. And somehow, the randomness makes it even worse. One house can be gone, while the one next to it is still standing. That horror became painfully real in 2011, when an EF5 tornado tore through Joplin, killing more than 150 people and destroying schools, hospitals, and entire neighborhoods in less than an hour. In other words, it does not just wreck a place, it erases it. Global drought and famine. Not every disaster arrives with sirens, collapsing buildings, or some giant wave tearing through a coastline. Some of the worst ones happen so slowly that people do not fully understand what is happening until they are already living inside it. That is what makes global drought and famine so scary, and it just keeps getting worse. It usually begins with heat that does not let up and rain that never comes. Rivers start shrinking, soil hardens, crops stop growing the way they should. Then food becomes scarce, water becomes a fight. Then daily life starts to break down in ways people are not prepared for. The terrifying part is that once those systems begin to fail, the damage spreads far beyond farms and fields. It reaches cities, governments, and eventually entire populations. And there's a perfect example of what drought can do. In the 1930s, the Dust Bowl turned huge parts of the American Great Plains into choking dust, destroying farmland and forcing thousands of families to leave everything behind. But today, the threat is much bigger. Supervolcanic eruption. A normal volcano is already terrifying enough, but a supervolcano is in a completely different category. This is not a mountain having a bad day. This is the Earth releasing so much pressure at once that the damage does not stay in a single place. It spreads across continents and can affect the entire planet. What makes a supervolcanic eruption so disturbing is how quietly it builds. Deep underground, huge chambers of magma sit trapped beneath the crust, collecting heat and pressure over thousands of years. And when that pressure finally breaks, it is not just one eruption, it is a planetary scale event. Ash can rise so high into the atmosphere that sunlight gets blocked, temperatures drop, crops begin to fail, and entire regions can become almost unlivable. One of the most famous examples is the Toba eruption, which happened around 74,000 years ago in what is now Indonesia. It was so massive that many scientists believe it triggered a volcanic winter and may have pushed early humans dangerously close to extinction. And places like Yellowstone remind us this is not ancient fantasy. And these systems are real, they still exist. And if one ever blows again, the world would feel it almost immediately. Blizzard, cold wave, and ice storm. Mother Nature is not always kind to us humans. It sometimes reminds us just how weak we truly are. And few things do that better than a brutal cold snap. Blizzards, cold waves, and ice storms may not look as dramatic as a tornado tearing through a town, but they can be just as deadly and sometimes worse. Because cold does not need to explode into your life. It just slowly takes everything away. A blizzard can turn a familiar street into a white void where you cannot see 4 feet ahead. Roads disappear, cars get stranded, roofs cave in, and people freeze while trying to make it home. On the other hand, ice storms are somehow even more miserable. Rain falls, freezes the moment it touches the ground, and suddenly every road, tree, and power line becomes a hazard. It looks beautiful for about 10 seconds, right before the power goes out. But cold waves are where it gets truly dangerous. When temperatures stay brutally low for days, homes stop feeling safe, pipes burst, heating systems fail, and being indoors is no guarantee. That is what makes extreme cold so terrifying. It does not chase you, it simply freezes you. Thunderstorm and hailstorm. While dust storms and sandstorms are also not the most pleasant things to deal with, thunderstorms and hailstorms feel a lot more serious. This is the kind of weather almost everyone has seen, but most people still underestimate how dangerous it can get. It usually starts with dark clouds, heavy air, and that weird silence before everything kicks off. When then suddenly, the sky lights up, thunder starts cracking overhead, rain comes down hard, and sometimes chunks of ice start falling with it. That is what hail really is. Balls of ice formed inside powerful storm clouds, thrown around by strong updrafts until they get heavy enough to fall. Some are small, others are big enough to smash windows, destroy crops, dent cars, and seriously injure people. Then there is lightning, which is easily one of the deadliest parts of a thunderstorm. It is fast, unpredictable, and hot enough to cause fires, power outages, heart failure, or death in seconds. The reason storms like this belong on the list is because they feel so normal. People hear thunder and think it is just bad weather. But every year, these storms damage homes, shut down cities, injure thousands, and kill more people than most realize. So, what do you think about these natural disasters? Which one is more dangerous? Let us know, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you in the next one.